Hello, I'm Carolyn Madgwick, the Director of Legislation and Enforcement at the Horse Trust. Prior to joining the Horse Trust, I worked for many years as a Trading Standards Officer leading a team enforcing animal health and welfare legislation. The Horse Trust is the oldest equine charity in the world. Our story begins when Miss Anne Lindo read and was inspired by the story of Black Beauty. The Horse Trust was founded in 1886 as a sanctuary for London's working cab horses, where sick and exhausted horses could rest and recover. The owners would be lent a horse to allow them to still earn a living until their horse was returned to them refreshed and healthy. Today, the Horse Trust provides lifelong sanctuary and respite care for equines who have served their country or community, or who come to us suffering, distressed, and in need of special care. We also support research that has a practical use for equines. Our research covers 3 areas: clinical disease, equine behaviour and human behaviour in respect to what makes people willing to apply the things we learn. Through our training team, we disseminate advances in horse care and policy to equine professionals and use the evidence to help inform and drive policy making. This presentation provides an update on new and proposed animal health and welfare legislation at this time, October 2024. With the change in government, many discussions have currently stalled. In advance of the general election, the British Horse Council, BHC, on behalf of the whole equine sector, produced a manifesto and asked a number of questions of the political party representatives. These questions covered the implementation of digital equine ID, unfair business rates restricting access to riding, and keeping horses and riders safe on roads with access to riding becoming more limited. If anyone wishes to look at the detail, the manifesto is available on the British Horse Council website. The Animals Penalty Notices Act 2022 received royal assent in April 2022. It makes provisions for and in connection with the giving of fixed penalty notices for offences in relation to animals, animal products and animal byproducts. It introduces a new system of proportionate, consistent and targeted financial penalties for breaches of animal health, biosecurity and welfare regulations. Its purpose is to safeguard and strengthen animal health and welfare by building on the existing domestic enforcement framework by widening the available enforcement tools. It created a system of financial penalties which could include on-the-spot fines of up to £5,000 for animal health and welfare offences in England. It's not designed for serious offences where prosecution should be considered, or for minor breaches where advice and guidance to encourage compliance should always be a first resort. The Act requires regulations to be made under it to switch on the penalty notice option. Secondary legislation, the Animals Penalty Notices England Regulations 2023, were published in December 2023 and became law in January 24. The regulations enabled penalty notices to be used for a variety of animal health and welfare offences, including welfare at market offences, welfare during transport offences, Section 9 offences under the Animal Welfare Act 2006 and the licensing legislation, and the export of live animal related offence. In regards to licensing, penalty notices can be issued for failing to provide assistance with taking samples from animals, obstruction of an officer and breaching a licence condition. The local authority officer must be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the person or body corporate has committed an offence, and the same evidential and public interest test required for a prosecution must be met before a penalty notice can be issued. Statutory guidance has been published for local authorities, and training is being held for local authority officers from November this year. Further, the Animal Welfare Live Exports Act 2024 became law on the 20th of May and came into force July 24. The Act makes it an offence to export cattle, sheep, pigs, goats or horses for fattening or slaughter, and applies to journeys from or transits through Great Britain to the destinations outside the UK, Channel Islands or Isle of Man. Within the legislation, no horse, pony or donkey will legally be exported from the GB for slaughter. It's a criminal offence for carrying out, attempting to carry out or organising export journeys for slaughter. The Act contains a delegated power to make regulations to enforce the ban through secondary legislation. The Animal Welfare Livestock Exports Enforcement Regulations 24 are due to come into force on the 1st of January 25, subject to approval by Parliament. The regulations will implement the ban through industry-verified pre-export controls and the current journey log approval process. The draft enforcement regulations will allow an inspector to serve a hold notice, which can require the livestock to be returned to their place of departure or unloaded and held in suitable accommodation. But of course, that's the easy bit that covers those journeys that are in some way notified. So what about the situations of horse smuggling? For many years, the equine sector, and particular World Horse Welfare, have been highlighting that many horses are exported illegally, without the correct paperwork or declarations, and many end their journeys in slaughterhouses. The Dover 26 provided clear evidence of this ongoing trade. In December 23, a group of 26 elderly animals, pregnant mares and youngsters were found by officials on a vehicle at Dover. Many were unfit for the intended journey, either through body condition or disease, and 7 of them were not even declared on the paperwork. 8 of those had been bought at auction in the northwest of England just over a week before. The 19 horses that were declared on the paperwork were travelling on EU documentation which stated their place of origin as the Republic of Ireland. The journey was declared as an EU to EU movement using Great Britain as a land bridge. World Horse Welfare took in all 26 horses, and there's a lot more information on this case and World Horse Welfare's investigation into the origin of the horses can be found on their website. So what's being done to stop this trade and effectively implement the ban? An industry co-design group has been set up and tasked with identifying how best to implement the live export ban for horses. This group will be chaired by David Mountford of the British Horse Council, and members will include industry representatives from welfare organisations, racing, polo and sports horses, along with those directly involved in the transport and export of horses, the devolved governments and the Animal Health and Plant Agency. This demonstrates a true collaboration between government and industry and will consider how do we stop horses being exported for slaughter. The group will be asked to put forward an evidence-based and workable option to be introduced through secondary legislation early in 2025. And the photograph on this slide shows Daisy, one of the Dover 26 and her foal Pompey, born at World Horse Welfare. So that brings us on to Equine ID, as having a robust digital equine identification and traceability is an essential tool in tackling horse smuggling. It is widely acknowledged across the equine sector that the current and previous equine identification regulations and paper passports do little to protect human or equine health. In 2022, there was a government consultation on equine ID, and at the same time, the British Horse Council ran a survey of horse owners, transporters and others involved in the industry to provide information to inform the British Horse Council response to government. Following the survey, a report was produced which is available to read on the British Horse Council website, and the next few slides detail some of the comments and conclusions of that report. The report stated accurate data on the UK's equine population is critical for health, welfare and trade. An effective system will allow for enhanced disease surveillance, improved disease outbreak control, speedy return of lost or stolen horses, enforcement of current food safety legislation and reliable welfare controls that will hold accountable those responsible for suffering. An accurate system also holds the promise of simplified and biosecure movements for sport and national international trade. Many of the responses showed that the respondents were not aware of the Central Equine Database, the CED, and the role that the PIOs play in updating it. meaning many do not realise there's a central place to check the details held against an equine's microchip if they are lost or stolen. If owners are to spend their time and money updating a system, they want to be able to trust in its integrity and feel some direct positive personal impact. As you can see from the slide, 4 out of 5 respondents thought that sending horse passports in the post risks them getting lost. There were many comments on how long it took to update passports, and we know a large number of passports are not fully compliant with the regulations due to owners not understanding the requirements and cost implications. While the majority of owners had microchipped and passported their horses, this was only part of the story. A significant number were not aware of their legal obligation to keep their and their horses' details up to date by notifying a PIO. That's a passport issuing organisation. This was particularly true for individuals whose horses had been passported by a PIO based outside the UK. Respondents believed that they were fully compliant because they had updated the overseas PIO, without realising that this would not fill the requirements for the UK. And those passports needed to be overstamped by a PIO in the UK. The current system is open to abuse with no clear benefit seen by owners, and therefore a lack of inclination to comply. We know horses can be issued with 2 passports. Passports of deceased horses are reused, and the whole system is seen as an administrative burden and cost. The British Horse Council has worked tirelessly to educate government on the need for an effective system that enables owners and keepers to manage their horses' information, that provides benefit to the owner, so they keep it up to date, whether that's via disease notifications, being able to easily flag lost or stolen horses, and even reducing paperwork for competitions or travelling. The slides demonstrate the current view of our equine ID regulations. Many further areas were explored, including enforcement, derogations for semi-feral populations, PIOs and breed societies. This slide sums up the current problem, that paper-based systems are inaccurate, antiquated, open to fraud and not fit for purpose. As a consequence, animal welfare is compromised by security is poor, criminal behaviour is facilitated, and small rural businesses are threatened by disproportionate border controls. The solution is to complete the laying before Parliament of the Equine ID and Traceability statutory instrument that's currently being drafted, and implementing it through an updated central equine database so digital identification can work effectively. The benefits are that this would provide better policing through simplified fraud prevention. Accurate digital ID and traceability provides the foundation stone on which the British horse sector can accelerate economic growth, enhance national and cross-border biosecurity, and create more effective welfare controls. So what's the current hold-up? The government spending review. I do not intend to go into much detail. However, the spending review is relevant to incoming legislation. The audit carried out in July shows a forecast overspend expected to be 21.9 billion above the total set in the spring budget. Spending limits for 2025 to 26 will be set at the budget in October. For the reasons on the previous slide, the British Horse Council has requested earmarking funds within the spending review in order to invest in a cost-efficient future by upgrading the existing central equine database. Digital First Equine ID would enable owners or keepers to keep their equine details up to date, the owner-keeper updates via the digital stable, which then updates the central equine database, and in turn notifies the passport issuing organisation. When a horse is sold, both parties would be responsible for updating the digital record. The livery yards would not need to hold paper passports. They become connected people with restricted access to the equine's identification. Owners can share their vaccination record electronically with competition organisers, and many other benefits are available to the equine and owner. It is hoped that this area of work will move forward in the near future. Welfare during transport legislation. Progress on this proposed piece of legislation is still stalled, with no further updates since March 2023. The equine sector is working to address research gaps in the hope that a collaborative approach can be taken to address them. And you'll probably remember some of the articles in the Horse and Hound, etc., regarding this update to the transport legislation, where animals wouldn't be able to be transported in different temperatures, so under 0 degrees, etc. In Europe, the European Commission has published draft legislation to update 2005, which, if passed, would introduce a maximum 9-hour journey limit for slaughter within the EU. So, of much more relevance to yourselves, what's happened to the PIR, the Post-Implementation Review? The review was started in autumn 2022, with industry providing their views and a number of DEFRA industry discussion groups. As shown on the slide, the requirement for a review was written into the legislation, which stated the first report must be published before 1st of October 2023. Currently, there is no update as to when the PIR will be published. However, at a meeting last week, it was stated that the government will be publishing their animal welfare strategy in the next few weeks. And we hope that maybe it will be included within there. While we all await any potential changes to the layer regulations, we are very conscious that further training was needed, and the Horse Trust have been running courses for local authority officers since autumn 2022. They are run with trainers from the Horse Trust, World Horse Welfare, the City of London Trading Standards, and BARTA, the British Animal Rescue and Trauma Care Association. The 1.5-day course covers all aspects of the hiring out horses inspection and includes training on ID, transportation, tack and saddlery, health and safety and what to look for into a fire plan, where advice can be obtained, checking PPE and the relevant standards, and an awareness of equine behaviour and needs. We cover carrying out the inspection and do a large practical session. We also look at what the vet should cover, what the local authority should lead on, and how to keep costs down for the riding establishments. And further work has taken place with that area, and we've sort of looked and given some guidance as to specifically within the inspection form what could be dealt with by the vet, what can be dealt with by the local authority, and where there may be some crossover depending on the experience of that local authority inspector. And that's been shared with the RCVS riding establishment subgroup, and we will continue to work on that with both local authorities and the RCVS vets. If changes come in with the PIR is published, we will provide refresher training on any changes to the legislation or guidance. It is worth keeping up to date with any changes to the hiring out horses guidance on the DEFRA website, and you can actually put your email in there to get any updates, because now they put it on as an HTML file. There are minor changes made at regular occasions. The Horse Trust, in tandem with the British Equine Veterinary Association, considers equine obesity to be one of the highest ranking equine health risks today, and we're working with a number of horse bodies to come up with practical solutions to enable human behaviour around equine obesity to be changed for the better. We created and piloted the Way to Win scheme in collaboration with the University of Liverpool back in 2019. In order to recognise and reward exhibitors in the show classes with the healthiest equine body condition. This programme has been further developed to spread the word on how best to maintain healthy equine weight. In 24, the Way to Win programme has presented a record number, 355, Healthiest Body Condition Awards at more than 37 shows so far this year. And we're delighted with the positive reception that this has received. We're also providing courses on assessing body condition score, which includes using ultrasound scanners to show the attendees the amount of fat in certain areas of the body. And this has been working with some show officials, but we're also helping with some breed societies that want this training as well. There are many resources and opportunities for training for your teams and your clients. The World Horse Welfare, Horses Explained videos and Welfare Wednesday webinars are available on their website, as well as huge amounts of evidence-based advice. The Horse Trust deliver a Talk Equine library with webinars covering clinical animal behaviour, case studies, research outcomes focusing on research projects we have funded, and health and behaviour webinars. We can also produce bespoke courses that can be delivered either via our online platform or in person. Barter can be contacted to provide advice on fire safety and fire planning, and they're very keen to assist riding establishments in ensuring that they've got really good fire plans in place, and it may be that the ABRS want to do some of this training with them that could be offered online or in person. The Donkey Sanctuary have a whole webinar series on donkey care, as well as their Donkey Academy that offers free online courses. Then, of course, there are the resources for the Strangles Awareness Week, SOAR, and the Canter, Controlling Antiparasitic Resistance in Equines Responsibly guidelines, to name just a few of the other resources that are out there. That's all for this short update. If there are any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me at Carolyn, that's Carolyn, at horsetrust.org.uk, and I will do my best to answer them. Many thanks.